Hey, everybody, welcome back to the Deborah Peters Show. And of course, my name is Deborah Peters. I want to thank you for taking the time to be here today. I know you all have a busy schedule and really appreciate it. Also, thank you for the likes and the shares. The comments really make the show grow. So that's really all I ask of you is subscribe and comment. So let me tell you a little bit about this particular show. Why did I put this together? You know, as we were, first of all, it's my second podcast. My first one went new and noteworthy on iTunes in the first 2 weeks because I talk all about neuroscience and consciousness. And so in this particular show, I decided it would be a good idea to just kind of ground that down from being theoretical to actually living your life, you know, going through your daily life personally and professionally. And so that's what this is really all about is, okay, how do I take these neuroscience tools and use them to repattern my thoughts, to reprogram my emotional responses, to create new patterns that actually produce new results so that I can live the life I want. I can have the experiences I want, no matter how you grew up. And I mean, most people in this world grew up experiencing a lot of trauma and a lot of shock, whether it was some kind of abuse in the home or whatever was going on. We all perceive our experiences. I had to shut off my phone. I thought I did that already. We all perceive our experiences, you know, in ways that are relative to our programming and conditioning. So that's how this show got born. And then I picked 5 pillars: health, wealth, relationships, self-expression, and business. Really, when you think about it, the top 4 are the first. But then I was looking at that and going, well, we spend most of our time each day doing business. And so why don't I bring these tools of consciousness, self-awareness, taking responsibility for your life and creating the results that you want through how you think and feel into the business world, because that really is what needs the most help. So that's where we're at, and that's my mission, and I'm so grateful to be able to bring this to you. I have an amazing guest today from Canada. She is a life coach, a personal growth coach, and her name is Amanda Kirkland. Thank you so much for being here today. Oh, I think you're muted, Amanda. Let's turn you on.
I did.
There you go.
While you were. I am looking forward to our conversation.
Yeah, me too. Me too. I gotta still give me like a second. I thought I really did think I turned this off. Sometimes when I think I turned it off, I actually turned the sound back on, which happens to me fairly frequently. Okay, let's get this off and notifications. All right, we're ready to go. So first off, before we get into the content of the show, how's it going in Canada? I mean, you guys have really been under a lot of fire.
With respect to what?
Just changes in the political climate and, you know, infringement on your freedoms and freedom of speech. Monitoring Facebook and Google conversations.
To be honest, I don't waste any time thinking about those sorts of things.
You don't notice it. Good for you.
No, I mean, I think I have a degree in political science, so go figure me saying this, but you know, it doesn't matter who is in at the time, and I'm not saying exactly the same. Right. It would be the same for the US, but nobody likes the leader. In most cases, it's everybody underneath the leader that's giving them all the training and the speeches and doing the research. So you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. Whoever is in play most of the time.
Yeah,
I mean, the
except
pricing of things
focus,
here,
right?
yeah. The pricing, the cost of living, that is
Yeah.
something that I definitely uh, notice. And I mean, it's not like 50 cents things are going up. It's like, $5 price increase on a regular staple for
Oh my
no
God.
apparent reason.
So I have to ask this question because I have a lot of Canadian friends on my social media. What's the price of gas now for unleaded for a liter?
154 yesterday, I think it was. I think I got it for 144 last week.
That's why I had to ask this question because I've seen their posts and I'm just like in shock. Are you talking about $154?
No, a dollar 54 a liter
Okay.
or a gallon, however it works. Sorry.
No, it's a liter because you're
Yeah,
metric.
so if you go like further out east, the gas goes up more. If you go out to BC, it goes up
Sure.
even more.
Yeah. It's the same here. I'm in the US. And so the other day last week I was driving into Atlanta for a meeting and I got gas for $2.66 a gallon, which is, by comparison to a liter, that's a really good deal. That's a super good deal. And in California, I was talking to a client yesterday and he's paying $6.54 a gallon.
Oh, wow. Triple.
Yeah. It's insanity. I mean, for the most part, the larger centers, like say, in the city of Atlanta, Jacksonville, Florida, like sort of like Charleston, it's kind of running around 354. But yeah, I got it as low as 266.
We're not running out of it.
No,
Okay.
we sure aren't.
I mean,
But
it
that's
is
a
like
whole other conversation, right?
yeah, I was gonna say it's a price fixing. I mean, it's like suddenly deciding water's gonna cost
Oh yeah, that's our
triple
next
the
thing.
price.
Yeah. So when I was looking through sort of like your background and what you bring to the table, my understanding is you're really good at helping people move beyond toxic relationships.
If they're willing to listen and play and have an open mind, yes, that's the end goal.
Yeah, well, that's with anything, you got to be coachable or it's pointless, right? So
Absolutely.
so what do you identify as a toxic relationship?
I guess verbal abuse, mental abuse, silent treatment, um, lying, gaslighting,
All the narcissistic
manipulating.
traits.
Yep. Humiliation, blame shifting, withholding support.
Financial abuse, where they withhold information on the finances.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah.
And undermining someone's independence and undermining their confidence.
Yeah.
That's
And
just a handful.
just a handful. Are you seeing a spike? Let's talk about this from a narcissistic perspective, because those are traits of narcissism. Are you seeing a spike in narcissistic behavior, say, because we're post-pandemic, or has this always been a major situation?
I can only speak from my life experience because I wasn't aware of all of this prior to the work I did on myself and now I'm doing with clients. I think it's always been there. I just think there's awareness and I do try not to use I believe, and feel free to reject, I believe the word narcissist is being used too much now. It's becoming like a
I
household
know.
word.
See it
And
everywhere.
I've had people I know and just now that they know that I'm working in this field, like they're throwing the term out about this person and that person. And I'm like, sometimes it's just they're using it as an excuse for their own behavior.
Okay,
Just sort
got
of,
you. I don't doubt that at all.
and then,
Go ahead.
no, I was just going to say the other thing is, the word toxic, I banter back and forth with that one, because I didn't realize that I was in a series of toxic relationships until I was on the other side of it. And then I was like, oh, that's the common thread. So,
Yeah, so then you had a reference point, right?
I had a reference point, but my goal now is to save my clients all the time and energy I spent
Trying to figure that
stuck.
out.
Well, I didn't even know that there was something to figure out, to be honest.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I can totally appreciate that. I've been through my own fair share of abusive relationships in my lifetime. And it was like until I started to wake up to me and start to like look around and go, wait a minute, this isn't good. The way I'm living or whom I'm with and the dynamics of our relationship, they just aren't healthy. Before that, I just thought that was the norm. But that was a reflection of my childhood. There was a lot of craziness in my family home that, as a child, you it's around you. So you kind of accept it as normal. And then when you kind of go out into the world and you realize this is not normal, there's other ways of being. And what tipped it for me? I broke my ankle teaching aerobics. I was backing down off the stage in the middle of some high impact moves, and I twisted my ankle and it broke. And I was really in need, because then my body just because I wasn't exercising 18 hours a week, which was insane to begin with, but my body just kind of blew up and I just got puffy. It was inflammation. I had no idea. And so I connected with this lady that was into sort of like clean eating and, proper herbal supplements and letting go of vices like constant alcohol consumption, etc. Well, and of course, within that, she's like, you should read this book. It was called
The Body
The
Keeps
Life.
Score? Oh.
No, it's a long time ago. The Life, You Can Heal Your Life by Louise Hay.
Oh, okay.
And I was like in my 20s and I started reading that book. Well, first full disclosure, it sat on my night table for 6 months and I didn't look at it. And so finally one day I just was kind of at my wit's end, how we get in our lives where we just can't take it anymore or whatever we say to ourselves. And I picked it up and I started reading it, and it just like opened up this whole other realm to my consciousness and the relationship I had with myself, for me to really start to take stock of my life and to question the quality of the relationships I had with friends and family. And, there was no looking back. It just continued to unfold, and it still does to this day. So it's like, once you step over the line of self-awareness, you can't go back to not knowing. You just can't.
No, and it's sometimes I say you've been at it longer than I have. But I'm like, the awareness can be exhausting because you're constantly catching yourself, trying not to repeat old patterns.
Yeah.
But if I can just step back to something you were talking about before, I just wanted to add one thing that, when I'm working with my clients, and as I've had to do myself, it's not all about the other person and their toxic behaviors. It's what role we've played in that relationship, because at certain times, unbeknownst to us, we've fed the
Yeah.
monster.
Had the
And,
beast.
just by reacting, um,
Just by sticking
and
around.
well, by sticking around, by reacting, engaging, giving the attention and the energy to try to like fix or change them.
Yeah.
That's what some of these people thrive on.
Yeah.
So that's another very important part, that I've had to realize, that with the dysfunctional situations I was in work and, let's say, the family, I'm not going to take blame. Like, it wasn't my fault. However, how I interacted and, kept trying to change and bring them away to my way of thinking, I wasted years and years and years and years doing that.
Yeah, decades. Well, because, it's how do I say this to my clients? I say to them, you didn't cause it, but you allowed it.
Mm-hmm.
And in your allowance, you become like culpable. So you've got
Yep.
to change that first, right? And it's so interesting. Like, I think, okay, I have so much to say. I think that, part of why narcissism has become such a buzzword is because we finally have a terminology for different kinds of behavior, narcissism, gaslighting, catfishing, breadcrumbing. We've got all this terminology. And what my observation is with clients is when they start to become aware through learning about this different terminology and what the descriptions are, it kind of like opens them up to be able to see what they've been allowing in their lives, like you said, years, like maybe decades, and then they've got to process that, because, along with that awareness comes anger. It's like you get pissed off, like, oh my God, I just wasted 30 years of my life doing this same like run around with this same type of person that could be in a different body. Like, maybe you've moved on to the next relationship, but it's the same dynamic.
Or you're, getting caught in a pattern of the same behavior in every single situation, whether it's friends, colleagues,
Clients.
clerks at a store, you know, and the other part too is like, we also haven't even started to talk about like us and what we're carrying around and what baggage, and the filters, like, why is this person triggering you?
Yeah.
Like, they're triggering you because, and let's start peeling back the onion, and then we figure it has something to do with your mother way back when, and that had something to do
Always.
with her mother way back when.
I know, right?
So
It's crazy. It's like
it's,
this family lineage.
and my sister and myself both estranged ourselves from two parents and one sibling, and my words are, it was self-preservation and self-survival for me. But that's how we had to stop the generational trauma, so to speak.
Somebody has to step outside of the paradigm. I have this saying that I got from NLP, and it goes like this. It's everything a person says and everything a person does is information about them. When it pushes your buttons, that's information about you.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I always, I remind myself of that. I remind my clients of that. And it's like, okay, I get that you're triggered. Let's look inside and find out what the root cause of that trigger is, because that's the only thing you have any power over.
Yeah, and that's one of the things when we're talking about awareness. I would get triggered. Let's say it was 5 years ago or 3 years ago. I did get triggered by something, and it would eat me up. It would consume me, and I'd need to talk to friends about it, or just vent and and find someone to tell me I was right, for example, or,
Yeah.
be on my side. And now, when I run into a situation, I'm like, okay, how is that a problem? And how is that a problem? And just peeling it back and like analyzing. And that's why I say it's exhausting. But I'm like, I can take myself out of it
Yeah.
within, I don't want to say minutes, but I'm out of it within hours or a day versus it being like a week or 2 or 3. And, I'm not going to waste the time and energy on someone in a situation that isn't worth, my time, your time. And that
Yeah. And it
energetically
just feeds the beast.
drains me.
Yeah. Yeah. I was, I'm writing a book, and I was doing some writing about the whole neuroscience piece of our life experiences. And in that, I do a lot of research, as I have done. Got on this path when I had my gym and I was training professional athletes, and I really wanted to know, why is this guy outperforming this guy in the sport that they're in? In this case, it was hockey. When in the gym, they're comparable to each other. And it really just came down to how they were programmed as children, and then how aware they were of that, and the choices they made in how to run their own mind. So what I've discovered is that when we think a thought, it's vibrational, and the law of attraction is governed by the law of vibration. And so when we think that thought, every thought is vibrational, and it literally is released energetically as a vibration from our being, from our cells, from our brain function. And it travels through the quantum field, and it links up and connects with any other vibration that is similar. So we can then identify with that knowledge. We can identify why we attract in the same kind of people. Like, to your point, it doesn't have to be an intimate relationship. It could be the store clerk.
Mm-hmm.
If you've got a program running where everybody, treats you bad, then it could be anybody.
Yeah. So one of my, to use coach terms, but it's, limiting beliefs is people don't like me. And when I say it, I have this with a complete, where I just moved from, there was a neighbor, and he was a miserable guy to start with. And I mean, I would, purposely say hello to him, not in a sarcastic way, just, hello or good morning. And he had a dog and I have a dog, and his dog didn't like mine and vice versa. But he would head straight to me when he was walking the dog, whereas I would like go around. And I used to come home and, whether it was talk to my sister or I'd be on a coaching call, and I'm like, this guy, like, he has no reason. He doesn't know me. He's just rude to me, and it just consumed me because of his behavior. Who cares, really? I mean, it's not our business what other people think of us.
Right.
But that was the sort of thing. It was like, I've got this thing running, and, I'll be on call sometimes and I'll see somebody responding to me in a different way than they're responding to other people. And I'm like, they don't like me. Like, why? What have I done wrong? So
got to get
I'm
your
aware
vibration
of those
in
things.
order. Yeah.
Yeah. And I still have to check myself on those things.
Yeah, because it's these are very deep programs that are deeply installed in our cellular structure. And to your point, it can be exhausting, because it's the way I teach it to my clients is, this is a lifestyle I'm teaching you. to be present, to be observant, and then to be, you know, creating a new vibration in which to run your life by, so that you're attracting what you want, not what your old program has dictated to you for maybe your entire life. And that kind of, I guess, like vigilance, you know, to put yourself in check vibrationally every day. You're not jumping out of bed and checking your phone and running out the door. That's for sure. You know, you're taking time to put yourself in check and to make sure that you're functioning on a higher vibration before you engage with the world, so that you get the reflection back from those dynamics that is in alignment with what it is you want to create, which is whatever, you know, success, wealth, people love me, you know, whatever it is, right?
I got one of those now.
Yeah, that's good. Actually, that's one of my mantras. I love everyone and everyone loves me. And I just, I roll with that every day, you know, it works.
Yeah, it's, you know, like I said, it's a lot of work, but when I started getting into and did my ENLP training also, so many things started to change in my life. And, you know, not that I'm one that necessarily does, like, sits down and does my own manifestations, but I did a vision board 3 years ago. No, it would have been 4 years ago. And one side was like love and a relationship. The other had yoga, breath work, like that sort of thing. And the other side was like independent, small business, blah, 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 blah. Anyway, I'd mentioned it to my boyfriend a couple of times, and I don't remember what context it was. Anyway, one night, I guess it was the beginning of this past summer, or it was the end of the spring, I mentioned again, I'm like, I don't know why I just keep mentioning this to you. Why don't I just go and get it? So I went and got it, and I just burst into tears, because all this work I'd done, you know, the work on the unconscious mind, the reprogramming, the awareness, had basically manifested what my vision board was. So here's the man, here's, you know, the yoga practice, etc., that I love. That's my self-care. And then there's the, you know, new business and the, you know, autonomy and whatnot. And I was like, oh my, like, I hadn't even realized, like, it all happened, but it happened because of this work.
Yeah, and it just comes, it sneaks up on you, and pretty soon you're living it. I know.
And yeah, I'm due to do another one.
Well, so I have to ask this question, because I love doing vision boarding too. Where do you find pictures these days? Like, getting a decent magazine is like...
I still get a couple of magazines paper-wise, and I'm very funny. I still like the Saturday paper the old-fashioned way. So we moved, and at first I was told that they didn't deliver the Toronto Star to where I'd moved to. And then I found out they did. Well, the first 2 weeks it didn't show up. So I emailed their circulation, and they got back to me right away. And they're like, well, with your subscription, you have access to the online version. I'm like, I ordered the Saturday paper version.
I want the physical, tactile. Yeah.
So a few places. I mean, online you can find them. I mean, you can just Google and print out color photos. So I've done that. And I know a couple of years ago I found it was like a template where they weren't very glamorous pictures, but they were all sorts of ones that you could print out in little squares. But yeah, I like photographs from the computer and the odd magazine I have.
Yeah, it's tricky. It's kind of tricky. I used to love doing them, and I would have sometimes an entire wall was my vision board. Last place I lived in Los Angeles had, in my office, I had this closet that took up the whole wall behind my, my desk. And so when I was on the computer, I could see it behind me. And so I did, both doors were, my pictures, but I'm ready to upgrade that, ready to update the pictures. And I've been kind of hard pressed to find magazines. I think the other day,
it's good point.
I was in the store and I'm like, where's all the magazines?
Actually, what I did, I just went to look at I still have my old fashioned day timer as well as the iCal, because I like the paper stuff. And I was like, is it in this day timer? And I'm like, wow, a year's gone by quickly. I actually had mine, I did a mini vision board just on the front, like,
oh, God.
So that when I opened it on a daily basis,
it's there.
It was right there.
Yeah, it's really good.
I found that when I had my other one up in my room, like at the bottom of the mirror, it became white noise, so I stopped seeing it.
Yeah, and it can, so for the last year, I've been remote working in different states, speaking at conferences and doing training programs for companies on mental illness in the workplace and employee recruitment, employee retention, and human performance, because those are the hot buttons these days. And so I don't have the luxury of being in one spot long enough to actually, have something on the wall. So I have cue cards, like little recipe cards, and I've written my top 5 goals on each one. And then I've got one, it's the last thing I read at night before I go to sleep. And it's the first thing I read in the morning when I wake up. And then I have one in my vehicle on the the steering column. So as soon as I get in, it's there. And then every time I look at the speed limit or the speedometer,
you see it.
It's there. Yeah. And then I've got one right in front of me on the mirror in front of my desk. And then in my bathroom, instead of them all on one card, I have each goal on an individual card. So, I'm doing makeup, brushing my teeth, etc. And then every day when I sit down in the morning, set my intention for the day, I write out each one, and I live it. It's not just enough to see it and think about it and read it. You have to live it. You have to get into the feeling. The feeling is the secret.
Yeah.
Right? It's like the vision sends it out into the quantum field, and the feeling of living it as if it's already done brings it into your existence. And so,
you need to basically embody all of it. Well, I was going to say one thing on my screensaver.
That's good.
I have, what does this one say? I think it's "You are awesome."
Nice.
Or something like that, or "You got this." And then, the other place to do the vision board is to have it as a screensaver on your phone. So
excuse me for sneezing. Thank you.
So it's somewhere else, but it is work, and it's reminding yourself.
It is.
I don't think I'm as dedicated as you are about, necessarily, and I'm fully honest with that, not getting out of bed or getting out of bed. And I kind of recalibrate myself when I get thrown off my game.
Yeah, it's good. I do that too. I think that I probably do take it to a whole other level. And maybe it's like, I'd be willing to admit to being obsessed. But I think it's a very healthy obsession.
It's a healthy obsession. That's what I was just going to say. It's a healthy obsession.
I mean, I could be obsessed on reality TV and complaining about my life, which a lot of people are, but I just refuse to engage in that. And I'm really insistent on creating my own reality on an ongoing basis. I mean, I was the first person, talk about you stepping away from people in your family. I was the first person to leave my family behind. And they weren't very happy about it. when I moved away, when I made the first move across the country away from them, they were downright resentful. And so I was there in that new environment for like maybe 9 years. And then I knew I needed to make another big move. So when I did that, they were really upset because I guess I don't know, I'm assuming, this is an assumption, that they felt like I was abandoning them. But I'm like, well, you can come too, It's like nobody's holding you back except for whatever ties you've created. But basically they had a little discussion among themselves, and they gave me 3 years and said, we predict she'll be back in 3 years with her tail between her legs. And I've never gone back. And it's because I'm obsessed with running my own mind. And it's been, Amanda, it's been hard.
It's a hard journey.
It's so hard. I don't want to sugarcoat it to people. Like it's so simple. I'm sorry to cut you off, but
It's okay.
It's so simple to do, but it's the hardest thing you'll ever do, reprogramming yourself, especially if you've got some really deep trauma programming in your system, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, for sure. And it's, with my story, I basically went through all the struggles on my own. And it's only when I got into this sphere of work and even met like-minded people. So, we do energy exchanges between each other. We have, I've got friendships now that I never had before.
Yeah.
And some friendships on a different level because, I don't have to talk to everybody about all the shit anymore. Like, I'm the one that sometimes I really have to listen to all of that.
Yeah, I
But
know.
even people like that, they're not really in my life anymore. So I've gone from like having a lot of superficial, thought they were friends, but all of a sudden when push came to shove, it was like
They were gone.
and I was the one that was blamed for the fallout.
Always.
But it's a lot of work. And like, it is, as much as I don't necessarily wake up and do what you do every morning, it's tiring. It's challenging. I mean, with our clients, we've had to go through ourselves. I mean, and being entrepreneurs too. I mean, you hit your shit and you hit your points where it's like, what am I doing? Or, yeah. And it's just the awareness of just trying to bring yourself back.
Always.
After.
Yeah. And you might have to bring yourself back like a million bazillion times because you're shifting a pattern, and patterns, depending on the weight of them, depending on the weight of the emotion of them and the depth of the limiting beliefs, it's like they can be super like attached in there. And I suppose this is where it really starts to get mirrored by our relationships. I did this experiment back in the early to mid 2000s. I took a break from dating, and then when I decided, okay, I'm going to start dating again, I said to myself, all right, we're going to do this as an experiment. Instead of going into this like super serious.
Sorry, in this day and age, I shouldn't have just assumed poor guys, but anyway.
But no, that's true. That's very true. I am very heterosexual. Okay. Yeah, very. Just for the record, there's men and women. That's all I'm saying. So
I'm with you.
Yeah. It's like, please. Anyway, so I did this as an experiment, and what I would do is, I would go on a date or two, and given my background in neurolinguistic programming, I was very observant, so I could pick up on everything and anything. And so I was just watching from the very beginning, how they communicated with me and what language patterns they use. I had a toolbox that most women don't have, but it was kind of fun because what I wanted to observe, if there was going to be any sort of downturn of the quality of the dynamic, I kind of wanted to be, with my thumb on the pulse. I wanted to be on top of it because that was showing me what I needed to work on in me.
Mhm.
So I wasn't blaming them. Obviously they weren't a fit for me if I was going to be a healthy version of myself. If I was going to be the unhealthy version of myself that was broken and kind of shattered from previous life, then yeah, they'd totally be a fit, But if I was looking for a different life and a healthier version of living and having an intimate relationship, they would shortlist themselves and take themselves out of the equation super fast. And so I did a little of that for about a year or two. And then I'm like, okay, time to spend some time on my own and do some more personal growth work. And that's sort of how I've just kind of played with it,
Well, it does. I mean, the tools do give us a lot more insight into other people's behavior. We have to be very careful, though, too, not to just let loose and,
Yeah.
keep our thoughts to ourselves because, you don't want someone to think you're judging or, I mean, I've got awareness about certain things and would like to call certain people out on things. And then I know that it'll just come back on me because of the way they are. So it's like,
Just leave it
but
alone.
what you were saying before about, the deep-seated trauma, et cetera. I mean, you said you've certified thousands of practitioners in ENLP. The quantum time release and the quantum change process, those sorts of
Yeah.
programs. When you were saying that if they're so heavily seated, whether it's the negative emotions and stuff, that's work that clients can do multiple times. and
Yes.
and we even do that. Like, when just before I was moving, I was hitting my shit big time, and it had to do with like the mortgage guy and somebody else and the lawyer. And it wasn't till after it was all done that I realized what those triggers were. But anyway, so two of my coaching colleagues were on a call one day and they're like, Amanda, do you want a QTR like right now? And I'm like, anyway, we did it. We did a goal installation and it got me through that 2 week
Good.
period of time. And then I had another call with another colleague, and it was about, I felt like I was back to the old me during
Yeah.
this move period. And she said to me, she's like, the bank guy and the lawyer, are they connected to your past? Like, have you dealt with them in the past? And I'm like, mm-hmm. And she's like, you're not energetically aligned with them anymore. They're
Yeah.
dealing with
Good
you
point.
like the old you,
Yep.
and you've come so far. And I was like, Faith, you just explained it. Thank you. I went to the
Yeah.
bank, got a new financial advisor, have one less thing to do with a lawyer, and that's done. And it was bringing me all these old feelings and, I'm going to say, limiting beliefs. And the difference was, in this case, I didn't go on like attack mode and try to control the situation and tell them that what they were doing was this, that, and the other, because I knew that was a waste of breath. But it still had me so you can see me churned up inside.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I can appreciate that so much. I guess that's why they say you can never go home, because it's like the people that knew you then have you in their mind, frozen in time in their
Yep.
perception of who you are. And let's say you've been gone for 5 years or 30 years and you've become this whole other person, and they can't see that. They don't want to see that. They only want to run with their perception. And there's no way that you're going to be able to tell them you're different, because they can't hear you. They can hear the words, but they can't hear you because they don't have the consciousness to hear you with. Unless while you've been gone, they've been working on their stuff, which is a whole other dynamic. But
I haven't. And I mean, I just had, I found out this summer that, my estranged mother I referred to had died. And within or in less than 24 hours, my youngest sibling reached out to me on LinkedIn and decided this was the time that she thought it was time to connect. So number one, not knowing how I would even process the news, it was all about her and what she needed and not addressing anything in the past. So I basically restated my boundaries and just said, it's taken me a long time to get to where I am. There's certain places and people that are not safe space for me. And, please respect my wishes to carry on, because like you just said, you can't go home and they have, I don't trust them, first of all.
there you go.
And I had another email pop into my inbox at the end of last week, and it said from another family member saying, "Am I still blocked?" And I couldn't get it off my screen fast enough. And what I've realized in both situations, someone from, I'm going to say, my past like that I have walked away from, trying to come back, it's terrifying. I feel threatened and I feel scared.
Yeah. And really vulnerable, huh?
Completely. And I mean, and I'm like, I've made the decision. I'm not going back. And that's all, that's all experiences that with my clients, I've been there, I've gone through it, and I'm now on the other side of it. And something like that, like I was talking to another one of my coaching friends, and she's like, I've only known you for a few years, but like the way you're navigating this stuff now, and that's what I want to bring to my clients, because I didn't have any of that guidance. I didn't have, I mean, the world didn't have coaching, so to speak. And,
or conscious awareness.
Yeah. I mean, I did armchair therapy for 20 some odd years. It got me through the day to day, but it never got to what the family issues were.
It doesn't move the needle.
No, not at all.
You could go to therapy, traditional allopathic medical therapy, every week for the rest of your life and never graduate.
And it's funny because sorry, go on.
No.
I was going to say, my doctor, I mean, I went for 23 some odd years, and once a week, and it was tiring, but I mean, all I did was go and talk about what had happened and try to give both sides so that he would have some perspective, but zero tools. And I remember a couple of times he tried to graduate me, and I was terrified, but it was terrified because he was the one person that was kind of on my side.
Yeah, and then finally, that was your support system.
It was my support system. And then finally one day I was like, this guy's getting old. He's not really listening. He doesn't really care. So I graduated myself. And then I started reading some books. And it's then that I discovered that my mother checked off. And like I said, she was a covert narcissist. I had a great upbringing, didn't want for anything, but emotionally they weren't able to give me what I needed. And I think, if I have to analyze, that's where a lot of my stuff comes from. But I started reading books that explained black sheeps and scapegoats and narcissism. And I started going, oh my God, that's what was going on.
Yeah, like the light bulb. It's like, so that's what they were up to.
And not consciously.
I know, girl. Yeah, I know.
Anyway, I go all over the place. So
no, this is so good. And, unfortunately we're out of time, but I hope, I'm pretty sure that just this conversation today shines a light on a lot for the viewers, because I know what it's like, and you know what it's like to be kind of in the dark, so to speak, where all this dynamic is going on around you and you can't quite, like, am I crazy? Should I do what they say because maybe they're
Is it
right?
all my fault?
Am I really a bad person? Am I really not worthy? I mean, it just is a black hole. But I think we've really kind of unpacked some stuff today. What's something you'd like to sort of last thing to say, and then we'll talk about your website to give the
I guess
listeners.
just to continue on what you were saying. I mean, you and I are living proof that you can go from toxic to terrific.
Yeah.
And I don't want to completely speak for your life because I don't know the whole history, but based on a bit of the conversation we had before we went live, and you know, the other message about not being able to change other people. It's about changing, like, our mindset, our learning to respond, not react to things. And also, you know, learning about how we may have contributed to some of the dysfunction in the relationships we have. It's not your fault. I was reading somebody else's guest appearance on a podcast today, and she's like, you know, if there's anyone listening, and it was more about, I think, you know, well, I mean, abuse, there's that in what we've gone through too, but that's what her reminder message was when you're going through these things, like, it's not your fault.
That's
so
important.
I'm gonna steal her message as a reminder and say, it's not your fault. However, it's your responsibility and it's under your control to change the outcome, or to leave, or to set boundaries. But you're not going to change the other person's behavior.
Yeah, to just focus on taking responsibility for you. Right? So, how can people find you?
I'm on Instagram and Facebook at Amanda Kirkland Coach, which is on the screen. The website is amandakirkland.com.
Great site, by the way. Yeah.
Oh, thank you. And I do have an ebook. On
Are you going to give us a link to that they can download?
I can provide you with the link, or you just go onto the amandakirkland.com website and just pop in your name and email address.
So I'll just have Margie add the link to that in our show notes so people have fast access.
Perfect. Yeah. I'll send it to her as soon as we're off.
Okay, awesome. This has been incredible. We could just talk all day. It's amazing. So the thing I want to sort of add to what you're saying is it's really okay to move your life forward and let people have the choice to join you or not. And don't take it personal if they don't. It's not their time. They're not ready. It's not a right or wrong. It just is. It just is.
Yeah, you're ready for it, they're not.
Yeah, for God's sake, don't put yourself on hold waiting for people to heal or get the message or whatever that is. That's just ridiculous. You'll waste your life. Yeah. Well, thank you, Amanda. It's been awesome having you.
Thank you, Deborah. It's been great. I had fun.
Yeah, me too. Me too. And thank you, everyone, for watching and viewing, subscribing, hint, hint, and dropping comments. It really helps grow this channel. I really appreciate you. And hey, 3 things: stay aligned, stay alert, and stay awake.